Hey everyone, it's time for our Fuzz Thoughts, and the first movie I want to talk about today is Lucky Number Slevin. This is a film that came out in 2006, directed by Paul McGuigan, and I remember it being advertised when it came out, but I never saw it at the time. I thought it was a Guy Ritchie movie or something, like a gangster movie. I didn't, and which is wrong for the record. Like, to make that clear, I was wrong about what I thought this movie was. But someone picked it for a stream watch recently, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. Like, I found myself getting quite into it. It's kind of this movie about a case of mistaken identity where Josh Hartnett plays this guy that all of a sudden two different mob bosses are suddenly very interested in demanding money from, right? They think he's this guy that owes them money for bad bets, bad bookie bets, and they start giving him jobs and harassing him. And then there's also kind of a romantic will they won't they with a neighbour character played by Lucy Liu. Plus you've got other faces in here like Stanley Tucci, Morgan Freeman, Ben Kingsley. A lot of big names. Bruce Willis is in there as well. So it's a stat cast. And I think the thing that caught me off guard is one, how kind of pleasant it was. It's very upbeat. It's very well edited. It's very well paced throughout most of the movie. There's a good energy to it where it feels like the main character has a very kind of like confused, nonchalant attitude towards everything, and not in a way that's annoying. He's kind of likable for the most part, even if you do kind of suspect maybe there's more to him than they're letting on. Like, you're kind of expecting a lot of twists and turns, some reveals about who people really are. Because there's a lot of characters in this who are very much concealed in terms of identity, where you don't really know what their backstory is, and the movie reveals things as it goes along. I think the other thing that impressed me about it is that when it does start getting into like the third act and it starts to do all the parts of the movie where it's going to wrap up and it's getting a little bit more serious because we're starting to actually get into what it's really about and why characters are doing what they're doing, there's a bit of a tone shift, right? It's not quite as fun and as light as it was. It tries to actually be a little bit more emotional, a little bit more like we're supposed to care about what's going on. And I think I'm impressed by the fact that I found myself caring a little bit about it, right? And not in the way that it's not like you're suddenly watching like Shawshank Redemption or something like that, where you're sort of nail biting like how much you care about the characters. But I think for like a sort of a fun, twisty, turny action movie with a bit of comedy, I think it does a pretty good job of getting you engrossed in the characters, questioning a few things. There's a few surprising turns, I think, late in the movie as well. A lot of them aren't surprising. A lot of them are actually kind of what you probably think they're going to be. But I wouldn't say that that's like a detriment to it. It's not like you're going, oh, that was predictable or anything like that. It doesn't feel that way. Like, there's kind of some hints given where you can kind of piece some of it together yourself. And then there's other parts that you aren't going to see coming quite as well. But it's very satisfying to see it all fall into place. And there's some, like I say, there's some fun editing. There's a couple of fun action sequences. Although that's not the star of the show necessarily. It's more kind of the wittiness of the script and the performances of the cast. And I think most of them do a pretty good job. Hartnett is good. I think Lucy Liu is really great in it as well. I think their kind of will they won't they romance is the heart of the movie, which really kind of gives it a good foundation when stuff kind of takes some dark, or not darker, but like more serious turns in the back half, where you're kind of like grounded by the fact that you're kind of wanting this more innocent romantic part to kind of still be a factor and work out. Yeah, it's a very much a movie of a lot of spinning plates and kind of like a master plan as to where it's all going. And I think it mostly works quite well. I don't think it's like the best thing ever by any stretch, but I think it was a lot better and satisfying than I was assuming it was going to be. I didn't really expect that much going into it. And the title obviously sounds a little bit silly. What is this? What's Slevin exactly? Is it a foreign name, perhaps? And there is a reason, there's an explanation. I guess the only like objectively weird thing about it is that there's kind of an extended prologue. You don't actually see the main character until at least 15 minutes out of the movie, which is a little bit longer than normal, I think, to wait to see your main character. But that's not even a complaint, really. It's more just an observation. I literally had the thought as I was watching it, where I was like, hey, it's weird I've not seen Josh Hartnett yet. We've been doing all this backstory stuff, we've been doing all this build-up of things we don't really know how they're connected. And then as soon as I said that, as soon as I had that thought, it cut to Josh Hartnett and I went, oh, there he is. So, but it's playful. It feels like it's, like I say, it's got this energy to it the entire time. And it does that thing where it almost builds expectations out of stuff, where something happens once where characters come to collect Josh Hartnett kind of against his will to go have a meeting with a mob boss. So when it ends up happening a second time, it starts to be this kind of funny repetition of like, oh, he's never going to get like fully dressed and be able to start his day. He keeps being interrupted as he's doing stuff, and he has no chance of ever taking a moment rest to breathe. But there's this kineticness of like that bouncing around between him getting taken to go and speak to people, him talking to the neighbor, played by Lucy Liu, and it's all going backwards and forwards very quickly in a way that I found quite satisfying. So when I talk about it having energy, that's kind of what I mean. Is this the structure, it's the pacing, and it's the way that the dialogue is relatively quite poppy. And I think it holds up fairly well for 2006. Sometimes things that were trying to be witty in previous eras, previous decades, and we're 20 years removed from this now, can age quite badly. I don't think this does. I think it's aged pretty well as far as dialogue goes. There's a couple of like CG shots where it tries to do this fancy transition where it sort of like pans from one rooftop to another one, and the CG in that like one shot looks horrendous. It's just of its time. They're trying to do something that really didn't look good enough yet, but hey, it is what it is. It's not like a big deal. It's definitely not a detractor. My feelings coming out of this were very, very positive, where I was like, oh, I actually want to own this movie. This was a fun time. I think it's well worth watching, especially if you like any of the anything that the movie's doing. If you're a fan of this type of upbeat plot. I think one of the concerns I maybe had early on, as I was watching this one on stream, and someone said, oh, this feels like it's trying to be a little Tarantino. And I was like, oh, I get why they're saying that. And I was a little bit concerned it was going to come off feeling like Tarantino light, like someone who's just trying to do a Tarantino movie. And honestly, luckily, that completely went out the window. As soon as we actually got introduced to the main character and we started getting into the main plot of him meeting characters and having all the plot set up where he's given this task that he needs to accomplish, but he doesn't, seemingly want to do it, but like it's going to be this tough task and he's kind of against his wits and he has to do it if he doesn't want to be killed. Once we get into that stuff, I don't really think it feels like Tarantino. I think the dialogue feels very different, the energy feels very different. It's just a couple things early on before we get to the main character feel like they're going for like assassins are coming for people, because that's what the movie's kind of revolving around largely, is assassins and stuff like that. But no, good time. Had a really good enjoyable time with it. I recommend Lucky Number Slevin. It's a shame that I waited 20 years to watch it, but hey. The other movie I want to talk about today is not a first time watch, actually. It's a rewatch, but it's something that I hadn't seen in a long time. This is a movie from 1986. This is called Ruthless People. It's a comedy directed by David Zucker, Jerry Zucker, and Jim Abrahams. So some big comedy names there in the director chairs. But this is, in a lot of ways, it's kind of funny that I'm talking about this in the same video as Lucky Number Slevin, because I think one of the qualities they both share is a big ensemble cast where there's a lot of bouncing around different characters and stories that all feed into each other. This is a movie where Danny DeVito plays a character who wants to murder his wife because the wife's the one that has most of the fortune, because they're rich, they're living in a nice big mansion in Beverly Hills or somewhere like that, and he wants to kill her so that he can take all the money for himself, inherit it, and be with his new mistress. However, as simple as that sounds, and obviously this is kind of a dark comedy in places, when he goes to do the murder, he goes home, right? He's got like chloroform in his hand. He's ready to go and kill his wife. She's been kidnapped. And kidnappers want ransom. And he can't believe his luck that his wife has been kidnapped and he has no intention of paying the ransom or doing anything they say. And that in and of itself is like a funny running gag throughout the movie, where the kidnappers keep being surprised that he's not showing up for ransom meets. He's phoning the police when they said not to, and stuff like that. But that's only one part of it, right? The kidnappers themselves, who are played by Judge Reinhold and Helen Slater, if you don't know who that is, she played Supergirl in the original Supergirl movie. They end up being like the most empathetic characters pretty much of the entire movie. Like the ones who kidnap someone are the least ruthless of the entire bunch. Because you've also got Danny DeVito's mistress, who's actually also in a relationship with Bill Pullman, and they're plotting to try and like blackmail Danny DeVito. All these things are all kind of happening in sync. And then you've also got the wife character played by Bette Midler, who is creating chaos for the kidnappers as well. So you've got all these threads going in and out of each other, and it's really fun seeing how they affect each other. Each plot affects the other one, and how it kind of like gets them into these weird situations later on in the movie that are kind of absurd. And it feels it's a comedy that I feel like you don't really see that lot of these days, where it's like this intricate dance of different plot lines that when they come clashing together, they make new comic ideas where all of a sudden, because the thing we've set up with this character and this other plot has this big payoff when it interacts with this, you know, B plot or the C plot or whatever it is. There's a lot of that going on. The actors are all very entertaining. They're all very funny. It's very endearing. It's very upbeat, and its style is like the sort of animated intro, which kind of gets you into the mood of the tone of the movie, which is, yeah, we're doing like a sort of comedy that's got a little bit of dark humor to it. It's a really fun time. It held up quite well in my memory, and it's super 80s. I know, obviously, I said it came out in 1986, but like when Danny DeVito goes to his mansion to murder his wife, like this place is clearly a mansion. It's clearly a rich person's home with everything they have, but it's filled with the most 80s decor and furniture and just bright colors and triangles everywhere. It feels so of its time in like every conceivable way. So if you like that, seeing that stuff, if you enjoy the visual style of the 80s, you're going to get a ton of that throughout this, plus some 80s music and some other little cultural things that are kind of sprinkled throughout. And it's always fun to watch. Like the characters, like a couple of them become sympathetic and you're kind of rooting for them, but all of the characters who are not sympathetic, all the ones who are kind of devious, or as the title would imply, they're all ruthless and they all want to kill or blackmail someone to get what they want. They're all entertaining to watch. They're all fun bad guys. They're all fun to enjoy seeing be devious. Like watching Danny DeVito pretend to be upset in front of the police, but then like sort of like cheer and drink champagne behind closed doors because his wife's been kidnapped is just funny. And Danny DeVito is the type of actor who's just got the body like language to sell that. And he's like singing to himself as he's delighted about the whole thing. It feels like a ping pong match being played by 4 different plot lines that are all just neatly all coming together as the movie goes on. Really like it, a lot of fun. I would highly recommend Ruthless People. Really good time. Yeah, there you go. That is Fuzz Thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed some impressions of these 2 movies. I'll be back with another one hopefully soon. I want to watch more movies. I always do. But yeah, let me know what you thought of either of these films in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Support everything on Patreon or via YouTube membership. But thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.